Joining us now, member of the House Foreign Affairs Committee, Democratic Congresswoman Karen Bass of California. And here on set, best-selling author Zainab Salbi. Very good to have you both with us. Congresswoman, how do we ever get the answers about these children? And also pointing to Donnie's question about who we are.
Well, you know what? Thank you so much for talking about the children, because here's what I'm really concerned about. I spend a lot of time focusing on our nation's foster care system, which, by the way, is already exploding. In some states, it's doubled in numbers because of the opioid crisis. We don't have enough foster homes for children that need to be there because they were abused or neglected. So one thing that I think a lot of people don't realize is that the clock is ticking on these children. If they are not reunited within a certain amount of time, parental rights can be terminated and they could be put up for adoption. Can you imagine them years from now looking for their birth parents and finding out the only reason why they were put up for adoption was because of our policy? The other thing they're saying is that some children are ineligible to be returned to their parents. What on earth makes a person ineligible? So our child welfare system, if you have a conviction, and by the way, when I went to one of the detention facilities, I asked what would make a parent ineligible. And they said, well, the parent might have a conviction. I said, give me an example of a conviction. They said, well, we had a father who had a DUI. Could you imagine not getting your child back because you had a DUI?
So I'm curious, are you all exploring legal options? At this point, aren't we looking at definitions for what's happening here that perhaps we've never seen before? Isn't this abuse of children? Isn't this kidnapping? Isn't this now leading to more problems? And what are the legal rights of these children and their parents?
Well, not only that, we are taking them away and then may or may not reunite them, but you know that we're charging the parents. So, for example, if you get deported, there are examples of parents who have been told, you have to pay $1,500 because we're going to fly your kid home along with the chaperone. Now, that's a lucky parent that actually knows where their child is. So this is state-sponsored child abuse. The only reason you should ever separate a child from their parent is if there is documented abuse or neglect, not as punishment or as a deterrent. It's a complete misuse of the child welfare system.
I think there should be a legal avenue then to defend these children if they are being abused, which, unless anybody here at the table disagrees, this appears, Zainab, to be complete and utter abuse.
Absolutely.
Well,
and the administration statement about the ACLU, that this is an ACLU issue, is almost cynical rather than responsible, actually. You know, the issue in here is that we have a country that is violating its moral principles right now. And we are projecting our fears. Here, what's happening to us? We're projecting on our fear on the most vulnerable population, people who are children, the most innocent and vulnerable population. So we have fear. Let's acknowledge the fear. Perhaps we should put it actually about the destruction of our institutional, the foundation of this institution of the country, rather than on the most vulnerable people who have nothing to say about it. You know, we need to protect them. So for me right now, what we need to do in America is about individual actions. Individuals, regardless of who you are, what your beliefs are. If you have a heart, we have to stand up for these children and for their parents, because this is about our hearts at the moment and about our souls.
Congresswoman Bass?
Well, you know what? I mean, I think that we're going to have to keep up the pressure. I introduced a piece of legislation 37 days ago that said that it is the federal government's responsibility to reunite the parents. And I think unless we completely expose this problem, they are just going to hope that it goes away. Amika, I can't tell you what it was like to be in the detention center when the parents were reunited with their children. There wasn't a dry eye in the room. The idea that the Secretary of Homeland Security would say, well, some of these parents, maybe they'll waive their right, maybe they don't want their children back. We treat animals better than this.
In a few minutes, we're going to hear about an organization leading the charge to protect immigrant rights and reunite families who've been torn apart this way. Congresswoman Karen Bass, thank you very much for being on this morning. It's enough. Stay with us. We'll talk more about this.
Thank you for talking about them.
Yes, we will keep talking.